All right, welcome. I'm Greg Tannenberger, External Relations and Professional Development Specialist at the Career Management Center. I'm excited today as we kick off our Career Chat series. This series is all about inviting career professionals to come back and talk about their career paths, what they did to get there, how they're successful, and then to open it up to any of our students that are in attendance for Q&A and have a chance for one-on-one with our career professionals. So today's topic is management consulting. And we have an alum of our MBA program back here today. His name is Steven Felger. Steven, after graduating from the MBA program, went on to join the consulting team at Gartner. He then went on to found his own consulting company called AIM Consulting. And now he is at CoreLogic as a program manager. Steven, is there anything else about your background that you want to share today? Yeah, and so with that kind of resume, if you have a chance to connect with Steven later and you're interested in a place like HP, even though Steven's not working there anymore, maybe you can have a good conversation about that. But today we're talking about management consulting and that career track. So Steven, why don't you talk a little bit about your experience in management consulting, and that can mean something different to different people. So if you want to let us know how you would define the field. Mhm. All right, let's see if there's something I can adjust. Microphone settings. Oh. All right, well, let us know now. If we're a little closer, can you hear us okay now? Yeah, the news desk. So Gabrielle can't hear. Sorry, we do want everybody to hear. Okay, that's mine. Speaker. It does, but I don't know why it's not popping up as a.
Mix it up. This. All right, test. Can you guys hear now?
Yes, Gabrielle, this is being recorded. I see. Let's.
All right, can you hear now?
All right, we're switching microphones.
Are you guys able to hear now?
Is it better? Okay, so maybe Gabrielle's having trouble on her device, but okay, so everybody else is able to hear okay.
All right,
let's move forward.
all right, good. So
How about that management of things? We'll just say it's not just strategy, not just business and numbers. Working with technology is another practice of management area. So a lot of times in management consulting, essentially you are solving client problems. Whatever, a lot of people will be a generalist in consulting. Some people are specialists. Specialists have, they either specialize in a specific function, a specific business, or something along those lines. And a generalist is someone who can go into nearly any client, any industry, and provide value. Overall, just management value and strategic value. So that's the rundown of how you would classify consultants. As I was saying earlier, back in the teens and 20s, the industrial area was management. What they called management science, or when you would get an MBA, it was you're going out to assembly lines and processes, and you're counting and keeping inventory, and a lot of that was administrative. What management consulting is today, it is not separate from technology. So I know that there's 2 degree paths in the master's program, right? Computer science or information systems.
Yeah, you can take MS in information systems, but you can even concentrate in that within the MBA program.
Okay. So the business and the technology are no longer separate from one another. So I can give an example of a common framework, I guess, for management consulting, and that's understanding where a client wants to go, or what the problem is. You develop a current state, you got to know where you're at. You develop a future state where you want to go, and then the consulting is to identify what's in the gap, what solutions can solve those, and you put forward recommendations and solutions to close the gap. That's the most fundamental way to look at management consulting, and it applies to every industry, every market, every product. So that's my quick and dirty on that area.
All right. So what did you consider yourself, a generalist or a specialist?
I am wholeheartedly a generalist. I think that, if I could do it differently, I would try to become a specialist in something. The reason is because, if you're putting up a tent, if you have one long pole, then you have something to base the fabric on so that you can lift up the other poles and get better. A generalist, if you guys recall the horse racing back, it was an old county fair game with the water gun, and then the horses would kind of move along. If you're a generalist, you kind of move a little bit and you get a little bit better each way. And you don't have one out front. So however, I didn't have anything to specialize in. I came in from the Air Force, got my MBA here from State, and had some project management career experience, but I didn't have anything to specialize in. So I needed to go in as a generalist, and a lot of consulting firms hire generalists first because they can be applied to a number of different products in industries.
Okay. So you're meeting with the client and you're identifying those gaps. How do you actually define success? How do you know you went back and did a good job?
Well, the best thing you can do is to define success criteria. So a lot of times people will jump right to, so consulting it follows the scientific process, right? You come up with your hypothesis. What could be the problem? What does the client think the problem is? And ultimately you want to get to the root cause of that problem. Otherwise you're going to put a Band-Aid on something and the problem will just resurface again in a few months or a few years or something along those lines. So the consultant's job is to do a bit of discovery and understand exactly what the context of the organization is. Get a real clear picture on what it is they're trying to do. So if they have we'll say a resource problem, they're understaffed or they can't appropriately allocate resources, and it seems like they just don't have enough people to get the job done. And they say, we need an HR solution. We need a recruiting solution. And a lot of times they have their opinions based on what they're seeing, and that's great. A consultant's best asset is that he's not there in the organization. A lot of times you guys might have heard you can be too close to a problem. People within an organization can get too close to a problem and they stop looking for other causes or underlying causes. So the consultant's job is to get to the root cause of that. So once you get enough of the context, you actually do go through and define success criteria, right? If you don't have an objective, it's hard to really know when you're done. And you can use that in a lot of contexts, right? In your career, in your education, right? And an unset sail has no favorable winds, right? So if you don't know where you're going or what the goalpost looks like, it's really hard to get there. But we actually do go through, most consultants do actually go through and they define at the beginning of a project or of an engagement, they with the client and with their advisory team will define success criteria, because at the end, when you deliver your solution to the client, they have to accept it, right? If they don't accept it, you're still working.
Mhm.
So you're defining it for their success and your success. It's a shared understanding and alignment of what success looks like.
Great, that's a great summary. Glad we have it recorded. So what kind of tools are essential to your job? Is there any software for instance,
Yes.
that you must use?
So in my current job, just started as I guess past few months, been working as a principal program manager for CoreLogic, and they're a real estate data analytics and insights company. So they're using a lot of machine learning, a lot of AI tools, a lot of data processing tools, a lot of management tools. And as I still have my consulting hat on, I'm wondering, are we using too many tools here?
Hmm.
Is there a thing such as tool exhaustion? So as of late, my answer is based on that recent experience. And I would say that if you get too tool heavy, you will not know the fundamentals of how you work and process information yourself if you're always relying on tools.
Mhm.
Same as if you, well, let me take a step back. If the best tool that you can use is this right here, a whiteboard, because you don't have any columns, there's no rows, there's no labels, there's no drop downs, there's no size restrictions. You can do anything on there. And that's where you need to start is the ability to think. The best tool a consultant has is his whiteboard in his mind, his or her mind.
Hmm.
So I would start there. But other than that, I mean, if you're not great in Excel, get great. I mean, it's all free on YouTube. So start there, because the way that most consultants solve problems or look at problems is through frameworks,
Mhm.
right? How does this data compare to this data? How does this organization align with this organization? You can line up roles and responsibilities. You can do phases, right? You can chunk up any problem, any solution into a framework, and Excel is really good for that. So that type of thinking is helpful. If you're not good at PowerPoint, making slide decks, I would get good at it. Just again, it's all free on YouTube. Outside of those fundamentals, common tools that you use are Tableau, Oracle for databases. We're getting heavy into Google cloud storage, and other machine learning tools and stuff like that. But as far as management consulting tools, it's less tools related, because you are going to every different organization.
Yeah.
You're not in an operational role that using operational tools. You go to whatever they're using. So other ones that are kind of new for project management are Jira. Jira is starting to kind of take over there. Salesforce is another major tool. Not necessarily that you would be using it because it's a CRM tool, but a lot of people will be consulting on organizations using Salesforce.
Okay. How heavy is consulting on actual sales? Because you got to get clients, right?
Yes, consulting as an MBA graduate, I had zero involvement in sales until you get to maybe a management level or an associate director or something along those lines. You don't have a sales target, which is fun and intimidating all at the same time. So it's good to be in sales because you're always selling, you're always representing the company, and as you work on different deliverables and even solutions, you are selling the idea of that solution that's going to work.
Mhm.
So being a people person, understanding numbers, and the best thing I did was learn about sales early and always try to get involved in sales meetings, because as you go up the career path to managing partner, that's when you have the $1 million, $2 million, $3 million sales targets. So why not learn it early?
Yeah, and you had mentioned being fluent in slide decks, so you probably have to give quite a few presentations. So presentation skills definitely in the box there. So you mentioned you're now at CoreLogic and you're a program manager there. A lot of your consulting experience is going into your current job. But for our group here, can we talk a little bit about how management consulting is different from that role, how it's different from your product management role at HP and other roles that you've been in?
Yeah, so just a bit of a fundamentals on projects versus programs versus portfolios and products, right? I'm throwing out a lot of P's on you. I think project management as a fundamental skill is essential for any MBA. I got my PMP, project management professional certificate, while working at HP and while going to school my MBA program. I remember Dr. Judge taught the project management class, and shortly after that class, I went ahead and just took the test, which I would suggest, for anyone coming out of the MBA program. So within there, the PMP curriculum, you learn that a project, right, has a defined scope and a clear start and end point. And that makes a project distinct from regular operational work, which is not necessarily repetitive, but ongoing. There is no defined outcome and no end point. So a project is unique to that. And that could be, construction, software, financial, you name it. A project can be anything. A program is a group of associated projects and operational programs. And a portfolio is a group of projects, programs that are either associated or not associated. So you have responsibility for a portfolio. Now that's very different than product management. Product management, there's many kinds of it. What we commonly think today in MBA programs and MSIS programs, you think of some of the companies, Uber, you think of Google, you think of Apple. Every single application that they have is a product. A product manager versus a project manager, a program manager, their priorities and interests are very different. A product manager is interested in the market, the industry, the customers, the go-to-market strategies, and they're working with their backlog and development teams to make all of that happen. Marketing, quite heavily. A project manager is primarily internally focused, where you have clear requirements. You're working with a lot more of the engineers and the people doing the work, and your goal is to complete on time and on budget. And oftentimes your objective will be handed down by a salesperson or handed down from a product manager. So product manager is more customer focused, concerned with the market. Project manager is on time, on budget within the company. So I've got to experience, luckily, all three of those, project manager, product manager, now program manager, and consultant. So I've touched each of those, and there's a big difference, and I think it goes down to personality.
Okay.
A program manager, again, it could be a privacy program, a security program, construction, real estate, finance. It could be any type of program. But a program manager has projects and operational work. What consultants have is only projects, right? If you like the art of solving projects, meeting new clients, and always something new, consulting or project management is probably a better fit. If you are okay with operations and running the same program, working with the same teams, achieving just new objectives for the organization, but working with the same business units and things like that, program management is more that fit.
All right, great. So for some of you that are having a little bit of trouble figuring out that path, I think that was a good breakdown. Let's discuss a little bit of advice that you have to share with our students. So based on your educational background, how did that lead you to where you are today? What were the stepping stones for you?
So the best thing that I think I got early on. I was in the Air Force for 6 years, and I had the opportunity of being. So I was enlisted, but I worked a lot with a lot of officers, and most of the officers all have MBAs or Masters of Engineering. And most people, while they're in the Air Force, utilize the access to free education. Because of that, because I had a good job flying around and refueling planes in the air, I assumed I would never get out of the Air Force. So I got my psychology degree while I was in the Air Force. And then one officer one day was a really good mentor of mine. He says, "That's great. Now what do you want to do when you want to make money?" So with a psychology degree, most people that do well have to have a master's or a PhD at least. So that was my kind of motivation to go get an MBA. And so I was coming out of the Air Force with no real world experience other than planes and a undergrad in psychology. So everything was brand new to me. It was my first accounting class. It was my first information systems class. My first data class. It was my first, finance 101, and it was all brand new. And I had to not necessarily swallow my pride, but be very, very humble and being okay being a new student and learning things that I have no clue about. And I don't know, almost be brave enough to not have a problem annoying the rest of the class. Right. So most of the people that I was in this MBA program with had an undergrad in business, or at least had been exposed to accounting or finance. And once I kind of, swallowed my pride and realized I actually need to learn this stuff, I want to learn this stuff, I had no problem asking enough questions for the entire class.
Yeah. And so when you entered the program, you didn't know you wanted to do management. So is that correct?
I had no clue what I wanted to do.
Okay.
I just thought that MBA was the goal, and then I'll figure it out.
So how did you decide on management consulting to join Gartner? Well, Gartner, I guess specifically, but before joining Gartner, how did you know that that's the path you wanted to go down?
Well, as I mentioned, I wasn't savvy in the accounting or the finance, and that continued through my MBA program. So so I didn't go into those fields because they just weren't resonating with me.
Okay.
I as much as I tried, and I read nearly every chapter, they just didn't hit home, and I just wasn't great at it. And I sometimes you got to pay attention to what you want versus what you're good at, and leverage what I could for the meantime. And I I had someone give me the breakdown of a project versus a program, and operations versus client work and stuff like that. And I realized that I think I liked building relationships. I was good at building relationships. And I thought I would get bored if I had the same job day in, day out. So based on that and my interest in traveling and consulting, management consulting generally pays really well out of the MBA program, better than an operational position on average. That was my reason to go into consulting.
Okay. So you attended an information session with Gartner. And you talked to me about what happened at the end of it that could have made the difference. But what do you think you felt really helped you get that role at Gartner?
What helped me get the role at Gartner? I'm sure you guys have seen the movie Pursuit of Happiness, where Will Smith, I think he's applying to be a stockbroker or something along those lines, and he just hangs outside of the company office and makes a point to hand in his resume directly to the person, put a face with the resume, and show them that you're a real person.
Yeah.
I don't know if I watched the movie before or after the information session with Gartner, but I knew that I didn't have a network that I didn't have enough of a network here in San Diego. I didn't have prior business experience or anyone else that worked in a consulting firm. I didn't know anyone there. So I walked up to, so I always kept a resume with me for every information session, because I never knew what would be interesting and what wouldn't, as I was still, working on finding my path. So after the session, I waited for the managing partner to finish up with the SDSU faculty and took a second to introduce myself. And I think we all practice the elevator pitches, but this is real world. So you can't be a robot. You got to show you're interested, show you're capable, and give them something, somewhat of a personality to remember.
Yeah.
And then I said, hey, if I'm not sure if you're hiring, but if you are, here's my resume. And even if you're not looking to hire, I would appreciate if I had the opportunity to ask a couple questions about the career field.
Yeah, and who was it at that information session that you got to meet?
He was a managing partner for Gartner.
Okay,
Yeah.
so managing partner, so that's a pretty big position, and so you went forward and made a pretty good contact. Process.
Yeah, and I was surprised to see that, right, managing partner, they manage all the accounts, and they have senior directors, managers, associate directors, and consultants all reporting to them. So I thought I was talking to a mid-level manager.
Yeah, mid-level. Okay.
Had I known that was a managing partner, I might not have had the same courage, but I'm still really glad that I did that.
Great. And we're glad you did too. So that brought you back here after.
Yeah, it
having
brought me
that
back here. And
experience.
actually, you know what? There was two of us that went up and talked to him after that meeting, and it was the two of us that got hired.
So you both got hired.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a tip for you. Don't be shy when you're attending information sessions. Go talk to the people that are giving them. So what did you do to prepare you for the management consulting role as a student? So this is advice for our current students. What can they do to prepare?
Well, find out what consulting sounds like to you. Personally, I think that I didn't know any consultants at all, so I had to go online and YouTube what is management consulting, and then once I found out what it was, went to this information session. I went through and looked at consulting resumes online and looked at every job requisition, whether it was in San Diego or not, anything that had to do with management consulting. And then I looked under those and found, okay, now there's marketing management consulting, there's finance, there's data consulting, there's all these different layers. And I used, just kind of my own personal awareness of what I was good at or what I was interested in, also where I thought the market was going as far as needs for resources. So I got really clear on what all these people or all these companies are looking for. Tailored my resume, tailored my job search, and I think I had maybe 5 or 6 cover letters for different roles, whether it was marketing consulting, sales consulting, IT consulting, so that I could just, throw it out there. I mean, I refined it down. It's nice to be considered in some of the bigger consulting firms, but specialized firms as well. To get consulting experience is really valuable. So I kind of had a strategic approach to looking at the career field in general.
Okay. What would set our current students apart if they were to interview with you right now? What would make you more likely to pick them out if they did something, said something about their backgrounds? What would impress you?
Well, so it impresses me now, everyone that showed up that said they would show up. And I mean that in the most sincere way, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't. So my challenge coming out of the Air Force was that I didn't think I was good at anything, and I didn't really know. So I was giving 110 nearly every day because I felt I had to overcompensate for so much. The basic things mean a lot. My leadership philosophy is show up, find a way, and bring everyone with you, right? And I think that the first one is the hardest. You can talk yourself out of anything, right? Once you make a decision. But the 6 of you here, you showed up and you said you did. So if you haven't patted yourself on the back today at all, please do that now. The best way to stand out for me is to show you're capable, have public speaking skills. If you guys have access to Toastmasters, or if they're doing it in person, I believe everyone should do Toastmasters at some point in their life. That's the public speaking organization. Does SCSU have a?
We used to sponsor it at the Fowler. That person moved on during the COVID phase, so we haven't replaced her yet. But yes, I agree. That was a great organization, and hopefully we'll get it up. But just because SBSU's Fowler College of Business doesn't mean that Toastmasters isn't other places on campus that you might be able to get on. And then around San Diego, there's a lot of organizations that do Toastmasters.
There's chapters in nearly every town. I went to the SeaWorld Toastmasters, the La Jolla went up to Encinitas. So you can get exposure to, so that not only helped me with public speaking skills, it helped with confidence. And I met one of my first investors at a Toastmasters conference.
Yeah. So good for networking too.
It's great. Yeah, it's great. It's great for networking, building a community. That's probably another thing is look at your community not as you don't want to, you're not using people, but when you understand what someone is good at, what they care about, what their interests are and their passions, then when you hear something, so for example, if you said that you liked volunteering, the next time I talk to someone at my company and they're looking for volunteers, I'm thinking of you immediately. I have a level of confidence that I can make anything happen for anyone who wants it, because I'm still a generalist. I'm not an expert in machine learning. I'm not an expert in AI, but I work with a lot of people that do that. But if you listen with compassion, listen as if, this person is going to be in your life forever. And if you help them get where they want to go, then they're going to help you get where you want to go. Then everyone becomes valuable. Everyone is important, and it's it's more philosophical, but I truly believe that. And then when something comes up in the future, you're going to think back, oh, I know someone who does fundraising and volunteering. I know someone who does database strategy, and that way it's not just you and the internet. It's real people, and you can always call them. For example, if you guys had an interview tomorrow with a company and they wanted to know something about machine learning, you guys now will have my email. You call me, I can give you a quick download from what I've learned from my company, and then you go to that interview and you sound a little bit smarter. And you can say, hey, I got a friend who's in the industry and I'm interested, right? So even that, right, it's a little bit of the fake it till you make it, but it's also just knowing that your network is not to shake hands and hand out business cards. It might not serve you today, it might not serve you tomorrow, but throughout your life, it's going to serve you. And the other part of that is the best class here at San Diego State. It does something similar, but it's in the professional field or the information systems fields. Dr. Jennings, is he still around?
Yeah, he's still here.
Okay, his class, decision support systems.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one, but a good one. Everyone should take it. What he does is give you applicable experience, practical experience with decision support systems. And at first I was kind of making fun of the class because I'm like, well, that's a hokey name for a class. But then the more I got into it is all these information systems and tools, management tools, they're there to help you make decisions in general. So it's very fitting. But I got access to Tableau, Jira, SQL, some geospatial tools. We had, I think there was maybe 10 tools in the course, and each of our projects we had to actually go do something with them. So then on your resume, when they ask, you get an interview, oh, do you have experience with Jira? Do you have experience with Salesforce? I do. You don't have to tell them the extent that I have a 1 week project on it, but and that too, when you're looking back, it might not be helpful today. A year, 2, 3 down the road, and when someone has a management problem, say, oh, you can use Jira for this, or you can use Tableau for visualization. And just knowing that and being exposed to that, it helps you solve all of your future problems.
Awesome. I want to give our students a chance to ask questions. So I'm going to open it up now to each of you. Feel free to just chime in with your question, or if you're a little shy, I recommend doing it in person, but if you're a little shy, throw it through the chat. What kind of questions do you have for Steven while you've got his attention? While we're waiting on some of you to come up with a question.
Or if you don't have a question and you have a topic that you're interested in talking about, or it takes for me back when I was starting, it's like, well, I have things I want to talk about, but I haven't formulated a question I don't really need an answer to. Sometimes it's great to just raise your hand and start talking. So
good point.
So maybe I can ask, Brenda, what part of this is encouraging?
And she's got a question for you. So Brenda, if you want to answer the part that's encouraging for you, and then Stephen will answer your question about the most challenging project that he's worked on or industry.
Or if you're not able to come on to audio, that's all right.
She's probably typing. Well, maybe Stephen, why don't you answer her
Yeah,
question
so-
and you can type your response. Brenda.
So the most challenging industry or project I've worked with. My second project as a management consultant partner was jumping right into my first two projects. The first one was a tax project with the city of San Francisco. And my second one was a healthcare information systems, they call it EHR, electronic health records system project with the city of San Francisco. Each of them were procuring new information systems. So the tax one, I had to go out and interview a bunch of tax experts. I was in the assessor's office, the recorder's office, the CIO's office, and they're talking about everything tax, property, parcel, lot number. And I don't know any of this.
Yeah.
And at first it was intimidating because I felt like, they're bringing me in to help solve their problems. And I didn't understand, 20 of the words that were in that last sentence. So I just realized that the context of each of the problems or each of the engagements that you work on in consulting, you can look at that as widget A, widget B, right? Until you get comfortable enough that it makes sense. Soon after that tax project, I went on to the electronic health records project, and I was in different committees with, we had nurses, we had surgical teams, we had the emergency room teams, we had the data science teams, and I'm not very good with medicine at all in general. So it's a very foreign topic, and they're expecting me to help them.
Yeah.
So that was the hardest. Healthcare was the hardest industry and hardest project to work on because they really needed our help. And we only had a few subject matter experts within Gartner in the healthcare space. So I needed to do my job as a consultant and gather a bunch of information and understand their problems and summarize it and bring this to my industry subject matter expert.
Yeah.
Then pick his brain, get his experience and exposure on previous projects, previous customers and clients, and get an understanding of try to get an understanding of the entire industry, formulate and package that, and then go back to these people and try to deliver that. So that was pretty overwhelming, but we delivered it successfully, and we were asked back to help with their next stage of work.
Yeah. So you went in not knowing much, but you must have come out knowing a lot more.
Knowing quite a bit, enough that they asked me to come back and help with their next phase. So
it reminds me of the capstone that we have for our MBA students, the MBA consulting program, because our students have been tasked with doing market research for nuclear X-rays, for satellites, for quantum computers. And generally speaking, they don't know all of those things too, and they have to kind of assimilate that. Did you do the MBA consulting program? Remind me.
I did. Yeah, I did
Yeah,
the
okay.
MBA consultant program.
Who did you work with?
It was a financial book to fund was the name of the company. So they were a finance startup.
Oh, so even better, because Brenda was impressed that you shared that you weren't great at finance. So then you go on your MBA consulting program and you're working with finance companies.
Yeah, somehow I was able to manifest that
too. So, but anyway, it's good, to have somebody down to earth who shares their challenges and experiences too. And that's one of the reasons why we do this. As an alum, Stephen wants you to be successful too. So don't be shy about asking your questions and getting his feedback. He's going to be honest with you, but he's going to be honest in a way that is helpful to help you get to where you want to go. So Gabby's got a question. She says, would you say that management consulting and business development consulting go hand in hand? And would you say that a degree in HR management will further develop my skill set for a consulting role?
Good question. So management consulting being on the problem solving side, and the business development being on the sales side. I think business development consulting is likely going in and helping people with their sales process. So I haven't done business development consulting. I've done business development and I've done consulting, but they absolutely are essential, right? So you are a lot of so we'll even dial back to product management. Product management needs to understand their go-to-market strategy with the products that they have. Business development consulting, I would say they focus more on that they have products, they have a company organization, they're then seeking the market, or even looking at their internal tools and processes that support business development. So supporting the sales team, the account execs and stuff like that. All in consulting, you are always looking, whether it's for sales or not, you are always looking for more problems, right? Because if you are either chasing money or you have a spirit of service, you are looking, how can I help? So,
how about the HR management? Will that serve Gabby well?
So HR can be a section of management consulting or a specialization within management consulting. If you have a degree or master's degree in HR, and you and I both go for a job for a management consulting position in HR, you'll likely get a position if they're looking for a specialist, but me with experience in management consulting, if they're looking for a generalist, then I would likely get the position. So if you're looking for specifically management consulting in HR, it's definitely going to help you in a role in consulting. If you're looking at overall, company strategy, big enterprise level consulting, HR would not likely be a major contributor to that, except for knowing where the parts of an organization or an enterprise that HR touches.
But remember, Steven started his education in psychology. So it doesn't always matter where you start, it is where you finish and where you decide to take your career. So if you decide that you don't want to specialize in HR management consulting, but you'd like to become a generalist, you can still get there.
Okay, interesting. I had one other question. I'm sorry, I'm using my voice now because I didn't have time to type it. But I don't know if this question is a little forward, but you did mention that consultancy was very project-based and it requires a lot of traveling. Would you say that this role is family-oriented, or would you say that it requires a lot of your time?
I can give you a consulting answer or the Steven Felger answer. Which would you like?
I would like both, if that's okay.
So my professional answer would be that any career can be, or any job field can be family oriented. It just takes you as the individual to set your priorities, set your boundaries, work with management proactively, and find a way to make that happen. Most companies are willing to work with you. If you have a family, you have kids, and you want to say you're in a consulting firm that travels up and down California, but you want to try to stay in San Diego, let that be known that that's a priority, that you need to be around here, and if you emphasize that, they'll likely work with you. However, consulting, because you have new clients potentially every week, every month, every quarter, and if you become really good at something, say HR, they might need an HR person across the organization. So you might be flying to Texas and Dallas Texas and Colorado and up in Washington because you're the HR person on the West Coast. So they're going to put you where they need you. Consulting, and again, this is my answer. I had a boss one time and he said, "Steve, I'm never going to ask you to take a vacation, right?" Right. So they are going to work you until you're worked out. That's my sincere answer. Most consulting firms, it's up or out, meaning you work hard, you're one of the fast burners, you get promoted, or you get kind of moved to the side, or you burn out. A lot of consultants, I think it's maybe 2.5, 3 years until you reach burnout. And that's not the case with everyone. I actually took a step back after my management consulting role with Gartner to do a lot of personal development because I was one of those that burned out. I was giving it my all at every turn, and I didn't focus on the things to balance things out. So the last person I advised, she was from San Diego State, just got a job at Deloitte, And all of my advice to her before she took this job, or as she was taking this job, was hardly any of it was career-based. It was very much personal life balance-based. So it's possible.
Yeah, and I don't know if I connected you with Laura too, right? She also got hired, so you're two for
Oh,
two.
that's great. That's great. Glad to
His
hear.
advice is good. The people who are talking with him are getting hired. Gabby, thank you for speaking out. We actually prefer that kind of interaction. You don't have to, but anybody else have some questions for us? Okay, well, if there are no other questions, look at the top of the chat. My email is there. And if you have additional questions that come up later, or you perhaps would like an introduction directly to Steven, shoot me an email and I can make that happen for you, okay? In the meantime, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Remember, the Career Management Center is here to help you at every step of your career path, so we can talk about a lot of the things that Steven discussed tonight and help you get to where you want to go. So if you're interested in management consulting, we can help you get to where you want to go. Steven, did you use the Career Management Center when you were a student?
I did. I used the Career Management Center for getting exposure to people or organizations that we have to network with, using for my resume and attending the information sessions, because a lot of what I found out, and still to this day do, is that a lot of people organizations will come to the Career Management Center when they have job opportunities. So the Career Management Center gets those words before LinkedIn does.
Yeah, and that's an area that I particularly specialize in, is networking. So if you want to learn how to make the connections on your own, or if there's a really connection that you really, really want, and you know that having my name behind it might help you, let me know and I'll make an introduction for you, okay? All right, well, we'll wrap up here for tonight. I look forward to seeing some of you back at some of our other career chat sessions if you're interested in other topics as well. Have a good night. And thank you, Steven. I appreciate you joining us and sharing your
pleasure.
advice.
My pleasure.
Thank you so
everybody.
much.